Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Open Network User Group podcast. I'm Mark Tierney, the ONUG Working Group CTO. Listen, ONUG has a laser focus on connect, secure, observe, and automate. I've said it many times. Today, we have secure in our sights, and specifically, we're going to explore cloud security posture management. What is it? We're going to dive into that topic and understand better what CSPM is all about. But first, ONUG Spring 2022. That was 2022. We'll be a hybrid event at the Meadowlands Expo Center in New Jersey. Come join the ONUG community of Global 2000 companies, enterprise architects, cloud providers, thought leaders as we explore the building blocks required to create flexible, transformative IT business platforms. Go to onug.net to register for this event today. All right, so I've got three of my good partners joining me today for this podcast where we're going to talk about the cloud security posture management. First, let's bring on Michael Clark. Michael is my partner in crime. Michael, it just isn't, no podcast is the same without having you on here with me. Michael is running an interesting thing in addition to his duties of his many duties, but one of his duties is the chair of the Cloud Native Security Working Group. Thank you for that, Michael. But you're also doing something at the conference. You got a conference inside of a conference at ONUG Spring. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, that's right, Mark. Thank you. As we're all trying to come back outside and into the sun after a couple of years of virtual conferences, and some people have made small forays and then scooted back inside, we decided that we wanted to really go live in a big way this spring. And as someone who's very interested in DevOps and DevSecOps, I saw a double opportunity here, which was as you look up and down the eastern seaboard from about Washington, D.C. to Boston for the past 2 years, taking in the whole New York, Philadelphia, tri-state, quad-state, quint-state area, you find that there have not been any DevOps conferences live for a couple of years now. Understandably so, but we thought, well, we're having an ONUG conference. Why don't we have a conference within a conference, invite all our DevSecOps friends, because we're all about security, and see if we can have a show. And so
Nice.
we're doing some curated talks, bringing in some special people. We'll leave the marketing to the marketing people, but it's going to be all things DevSecOps under the umbrella of ONUG. Come, bring your families, enjoy.
Yeah, and go to onug.net to see what that content looks like and to sign up. Listen, I'm glad you use the word special people. I get the special moniker assigned to me from time to time, but I'm going to use it today. We've got also on our panel a special person, and that is N2vo. N2.
Hi.
Let's bring her on. You never know what N2 is going to say. N2 is the senior principal engineer at Marvell Technology. She's actually a participant in several of the ONUG working groups. Hey, N2, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm so glad you're going to be here because I know you're going to help us keep it lively. And you never know what you're going to say next. Let's be frank.
I will behave.
Okay. Well, I said I want it to be a fun podcast, so don't behave.
Okay.
The guest of honor, the author of the most recent article. Listen, Michael's team, the Cloud Native Security team, they put out so much great content that's of such important value to the ONUG membership. And this latest article by Marina is no different. So please welcome Marina Segal.
Hello.
Marina, welcome to the podcast. You're a podcast, ONUG podcast veteran.
Hi.
So Marina, the last time we spoke, your title was Triple Secret. Is it still Triple Secret? Are you still I can't say and we can't say who you're with and where you're from?
That's the truth. Yes, I'm still working on the secret startup and making something in cloud security space.
Nice. Well, we can't wait. In the meantime, we get to be the benefactors of your knowledge and your background. Why don't you just for a moment give us a little bit about your background?
Sure. So my background started as an auditor and compliance specialist back in on-prem days as part of Deloitte practice of IT risk management. They call it a different acronym, but in general, we were busy with helping companies to manage their IT risks and everything that comes with that. So I was an auditor. I was helping companies to prepare for an audit. I was performing different fraud analysis and assessments. Over time, I moved to different places. I was part of Israeli practice and then of Canada. And then I became a practitioner of security. I decided I want to be the actual client. I don't want to just do projects and go away. I want to be able to help companies from inside and see what it looks like. So I became a security practitioner doing different types of roles in security teams, starting from GRC to third-party risk management, asset management, SOC team assistance, and so on. One of the most exciting parts was the Credit Karma team, where I helped them to move to the cloud. And later on, I got excited about security products in general, but specifically those products that help compliance experts, because my background started there and I wanted to automate it. So I became a product manager, and from there I've done a couple of startups, Dom9 Security that got acquired by Checkpoint, and then Sysdig, and now I'm implementing some of the dreams on my own.
That's awesome, and we all can't wait to hear what the next thing brings, and we'll certainly be talking about it here at ONUG and on the ONUG podcast. So let me give everybody a little glimpse into how this works. So Michael's team, as I mentioned, a heady group of writers and bloggers and casters and whatnot. It's hard for me to even keep up, but often what happens is the leaders on that team they'll raise their hand and I'm passionate about a topic, and they'll write an article or a blog or whatnot, and then with the help of the rest of Michael's team, we go through an editing process and then finally publish, and then we like to pod about it, right? And that's what we're doing today. So Marina did just that. She raised her hand and published "Discover Your Cloud Security Posture Maturity Level." And we're here to talk about it today. The best way I think to start is, for those who don't know, is just get an understanding of what is CSPM. So why don't we start there, Marina? What is Cloud Security Posture Management?
Yeah, it's to me it may sound easy and straightforward, but I'm sure that people who haven't come across the terminology may wonder what it is. Basically, it's an area of security that describes how we can make sure that all of the cloud assets have the right security measures to stay protected at all times. Same as you have with your, healthcare practitioner that looks after your physical health posture, or even at your, posture as the way you're sitting. You need to make sure that you have the right preventative measures and configurations in the cloud to keep it secured at all times. And in general, the term that was picked by practitioners in the industry was posture, because it's not really a compliance, it's not really a security, it's something that makes it operate and perform and be secured.
So it's interesting as you're describing it. I get self-conscious because my posture is deteriorating probably in the show. Like I'm like shrinking in my seat. I'm trying to get my shoulder. The difference is that the construct and environments that we're trying to measure are constantly changing. I mean, into like you see this a lot, right? I mean, the world is changing every day, right?
Yes. I started in networking and data center 11 years ago. And the journey from on-prem to cloud to hybrid to multi and the associated security policies and control have been bewildering at times. And this is, my daily job. So, and I'm tracking it closely and still it's like, whoa.
So I guess the first thing that comes to mind. I know there's a million questions here, of course, Marina, but how does a good cloud security posture management practice, if that's the right word, keep up with the change? Is that a fair question?
It is, and it's just to maybe start with, why is it so hard to keep up? Basically, it's a lot of moving pieces that create a lot of complexity, and each client is different. There is no environment that looks exactly like another one. Think about the fact that the cloud environment is changing. AWS or other cloud providers, they keep adding new services or improve or change existing services all the time. The development teams decide to deploy new assets all the time and use new services because they're experimenting, because they want some new gadget, or because they actually heard that it will improve their systems. New cloud providers being added to the environments, and also the lifespan of the workloads is changing. Containers that come up and down every second to scale, all of those assets, they have some sort of configurations, right? And a human mistake or even some small change in the deployment process can drastically affect the security posture. And that's why it is so challenging to build this practice, because you need to protect something that is moving target.
It's interesting because Michael, when I think about your space, and when I say your, I mean, I know your domain is large, but you're so plugged into the DevOps and DevSecOps world. I would think that your people are part of the chaos, right? Like, and wonder if, cloud security posture management is, is it in the psyche of, your typical DevOps, DevSecOps peeps?
Well, not everybody, perhaps, and in fact, Marina is probably aware that there are people running around the planet, believe it or not, who have contrary views on how one should successfully run any operation, let alone a security operation, right? And what things to focus on. If you just quickly have been around long enough, as some of us have, to have survived the quality movement, you'll remember that we went through a lot of stuff that sounded like this. Oh well, your organization is really down here, and we want you to be up here, and then you're going to win the JD Power Award or something and get the ISO 29058, certification and so on. It's not something that, for some of us who went through all that, came out the other side feeling particularly good about. So, if anything, I would say that so a slightly different perspective, coming through the DevOps movement of the last 10 years and really getting to see what collaboration, authentic, sincere collaboration looks like between development people, security people, operations people in a perfect world. I actually believe that maturity models can be more than useful. They can be necessary. So if you had come at me with this 15 years ago, Marina, I would have said, oh my God, not another maturity model. How dull is that, right? And, we're going to have to be stepping through all these hoops. But really now there's a value side and there's a cost side to it. And we can certainly talk about that. But the only time that I think maturity models can be problematic, especially given the size of the threat out there, is when they're not properly supported bought in by senior management. If the line managers, they know that they're in a world of hurt, and if they think that that this model is actually it's a very concrete and substantive and focused way to raise your game, who doesn't want to do that? So I think Marina has come along at a point in the evolution of my own psyche where I say, yeah, these things are, the world is ready for these things again. And so you're starting to see maturity models in general. So,
all right. So we didn't practice this because I don't roll like that. But I love the segue that you just teed up, Michael. And that is, and Marina, I don't like to talk a lot about history stuff on podcasts. But mostly because it just feels like people like Michael and I are just talking about the good old days, right? But
they weren't good. They weren't good.
They weren't that great. Like, I mean, unless we're pulling floor tiles and storing beer under the data center, like that, just like those are the good days. But no, but what I mean is, I don't want to spend a ton of time on history, but I would like to understand, to Michael's point, like the evolution of cloud security posture management, and then into that, what is the adoption? Who are the who are the people waving the flag, pushing for this inside of organizations?
Sure. Yeah. So I guess it all started when, in the old days, when we were busy with keeping organizations compliant with regulations like SOX, right? So that's where we actually started to understand that IT environments make a huge difference in financial reporting, in the way that companies operate, and that's where all the regulators woke up. After that, there was a PCI, was the credit cards adoption, where we started paying using credit cards. And over time, more and more assets or data that people care about moved to the cloud or to the environment that are driven by IT systems. And that's where regulators figure that all of this needs to be protected at all times, and the security systems need to be audited and compliant, right? But how do you audit something that is so dynamic, right? And that's where we started seeing more and more APIs come out, and cloud providers give us an amazing way to look at their environments through the APIs. And that's when the evolution of security tools that check for configurations and for posture of the systems became possible, because now we can call those APIs and just quickly programmatically check for things. We don't need to take more 20 samples every month just to make sure that something is locked. So nowadays, there is a technology that allows us to call the API, check for configuration, and get the response back and see if it's compliant or not. So companies started to build technology around this, and it wasn't called CSPM back then, but that's what it was doing. It was running a set of checks against different best practices, such as CIS benchmarks or NIST 853 or PCI, and making sure that the password policies are there, that the encryption is there, that the MFA enabled on all the users that have admin permissions, and so on. And an ecosystem was created around all of this kind of a domain of security that checks for configurations or misconfigurations, along with a lot of press coverage of open buckets and different breaches, which can help the companies also to understand what's important, where to focus on. And I guess that happened around 2018, where cloud was mature enough and those security tools were in their infancy, and they started to gain traction. And side by side with vulnerability management tools or tools that do application security, companies understood that one of the main problems they have nowadays in the cloud is those misconfigurations, and this technology became another domain that they need to take care of.
So who's advocating? I mean, and two, are you seeing, and I'm totally putting you on the spot here, but I mean, are you seeing, different groups inside of organizations that are advocating, for these types of tools more than others? Have you gotten a sense of that at all in your travels?
I was thinking as Marina was speaking, and in previous professional and incarnation, previous jobs, I've dealt with large Fortune 500 customers, and everybody is going to some form of cloud, right? And they also have on-prem access, on-prem services data center, and everybody is talking about enforcement point policies and things like that. And if you take a level up from that, take a step up, the enforcement and the compliance is the next thing that everybody runs into. Oh yeah, we can set these policy for cloud access on outposts here, AWS outposts, for example. But then what about over here? And then all of a sudden it becomes different sets of policy that needs to be managed and make sure that they're compliant. So yes, I've seen a lot of conversation. I've been part of a lot of conversations and discussion on the more comprehensive policy enforcement, compliance management.
So Marina, who is advocating for expansion? Inside the enterprise, who's advocating for these tools the most?
It's usually that team under CISO that is busy with cloud security. They sometimes part of the cloud security team. Sometimes they called architects, but they report to CISOs, and their job is to make sure that when the services in the cloud are deployed, they deployed with the right set of configurations. They are the ones that declaring the policy and the rules or the governance of how it should work. The ones who are implementing that, on the other hand, would be the developers or the DevOps people who are deploying the cloud services. In some cases, in more mature companies, it will be the DevSecOps with Terraforms. In some places, it would be that engineer who just spinning off the instance using the AWS or Google consoles. So really depends, and there is no such a title yet. But same as with vulnerability management, it's just part of the security team that is not SOC. That is more of an operations team that deals with tickets or vulnerabilities or issues that come out of the CSPM.
Am I right? It feels like there's a big crossover here with compliance and governance. Is that, I mean, are those teams in lockstep with this? Is this part of their process as well?
Yeah. I think they are influencers, and they are, in some cases, users of the reports from the CSPM. However, what I've noticed is that in many cases, GRC teams and compliance teams are not hands-on with the technology that security teams is operating. So they will just get a fraction of information or some of the data from the system, and they would not be technology savvy enough just to understand the outputs of those tools. There are teams, and I've been part of several teams like that are more hands-on with security tools, and then they would definitely be a very advanced users of those.
Okay, so Michael and I are also heavily involved in the ONUG ACG, or Automated Cloud Governance Working Group, and that team is all about how we help our enterprise consuming members consume multi-cloud. That's just a big part of what that team does and why it exists. What about multi-cloud? Because I feel like there must be an awful lot of complexity associated with CSPM tooling. If you're multi-cloud, is it a one size fits all process? I mean, if you're if you're consuming multi-cloud, I mean, does that by definition mean your CSPM are, native to each particular cloud? Help me sort through all that.
Right. CSPM tools has evolved to the level where they support any cloud provider, right? So there are some differences between them in coverage, but on a strategic level, we can assume that if you have a CSPM tool, it can handle any cloud provider that you are running. And the policies or governance rules that you define, they should be universal across all of your cloud environments. There is no difference unless you have less sensitive data on one cloud as opposed to other. But that also is valid if you have just 3 accounts in one cloud provider and each one of them handles different types of data. So yeah, the answer is it doesn't matter if it's one cloud or multi-cloud. The process and the level of solutions is the same.
Which is a little unique, right? I mean, Mark and I are working on a project where we're regularly reminded of how little interoperability there is, if that's the right way to, if that's not unfair. But I mean, Sentinel and QRadar and the Google product and the Oracle product, they don't come out of the box ready to talk to each other happily.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's the orchestrator on top of them who is able to solve some of those differences. The devil is in the details. In the end, if you're running some rules on one cloud and there is no coverage in your CSPM solution to run the same rule for another cloud provider, you will have some blind spot or gap. But all of those tools and technologies, they have roadmap ahead of them, and they are aware of these gaps, and they're gonna pick up. So the ultimate goal of all of them is to be agnostic to the cloud provider and provide same set of capabilities to all.
So maybe that's a good segue then into asking you, can you break down from your perspective, and again, we're going to invite everybody to go read the paper. It's on onug.net. But what are the main components of a CSPM solution?
Right. So first and foremost, the one that is the dominant use case for the CSPM is the ability to configure rules and run them against your cloud environment, right? And those rules usually come as a default policies in the CSPM tools. So you basically you take the CSPM, you onboard your cloud account. The moment you've done that, you have a list of misconfigurations that the tool was able to flag against your environment. So that's the initial use case, and all of the tools come with predefined packages for each one of the regulatory programs that you can think of. So that's the first one. And the maturity model there is, first of all, are you using any tool? Are you doing it on your own? Because, with this robust set of APIs, you can write your own script and check for open buckets, right? But that is not scalable, because tomorrow the API of the buckets is changing and you need to redo the whole thing. The more mature organizations would use out-of-the-box rules, but that may cause to get a lot of false positives, right? Because there is no one rule that fits all the companies. And then, the most mature ones will constantly update the rules to fit their security requirements. That's the ultimate goal. That's the first use case. The next use case, okay, that was the detection. That's cool. Now, what am I going to do with all this, all the misconfigurations I've detected? Someone needs to solve them. Otherwise, I'm just, creating some monitoring tool that is yet another security tool that no one uses.
Or not. Or no.
You probably have not heard of those, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then the other big functionality there is the remediation flow. How do you trigger remediation? How do you integrate that into your processes with you use Jira for ticketing system? What do you do with them, right? I think those are the two key use cases, and there are more to that. You can have visualization maps, and you can get your workload protection with on top of that, and misconfigurations in your permissions, and there are a lot of features. But the use case there is just, okay, show me my misconfigurations, let me fix them.
I can't help but wonder: are there hybrid aspects to CSPM as well? I mean, I know obviously by definition it's cloud, but if I'm running an internal cloud and consuming public cloud, are there overlaps there? And are these tools oriented to address hybrid environments as well?
I haven't seen any tools that truly address hybrid use case, just because that on-prem still lacking that level of APIs. And usually, if you are on-prem, you still have that boundary.
Right.
And it's the misconfigurations there, the level of risk is slightly different.
Sure. Okay. All right. Well, tell us about the maturity model itself.
I guess I didn't want to over complicate the model. It's basically, I've spoken to many clients, and some of them had different perspectives, and each one of them had the same question. What is my ultimate goal? Where do I want to be when it comes to the misconfigurations or the security of my cloud environment? And the answer is that it differs because each client has different risk appetite. They use different security stack, and they are in different levels of maturity in their cloud journey. And it also reflects to the level of maturity in their posture management journey. So the goal of this maturity model was to give a practical tool that will help companies to create a project around posture management, and to guide them to what are those key elements of the program that they need to focus on. So if, for example, they evaluated themselves against the model and they understood that they are developing, and their goal is to become more mature, they need to outline the steps to get to the reactive and then to the proactive state. And it may simplify the internal discussion and conversation even with the board, about, okay, where are you today? What's your security risk in the cloud? And what's your plan? So that's why I went and created that model.
So if a company is moving to the cloud, like what's the approach then? Do they need to assess where they're at from a maturity perspective and then look for the right tool? What's the best approach for
that? It depends.
Oh boy.
Yes, because I can start asking you questions and we can simulate the conversation here. But basically, the first thing that comes to mind: what type of data the company has, what type of cloud they're planning to use, what are they going to run in the cloud, how many developers do they have, who is running their security, and many different other questions. If we want like a cookie cutter solution, I would say just select the CIS benchmarks of that specific cloud and start with that, and start building your program around it. And
But,
then Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I can't help but say that I think that's the beauty of it. The beauty of it is that while we could fool ourselves into thinking a cookie cutter approach gets the job done for everybody across the board, we know it doesn't. And so the question is, do you have a model that's flexible enough, breathable enough, intelligent enough to be able to take all of this sort of variation in, and then have people give people the opportunity to actually pull the levers and push the switches and make it valid for them.
Yeah. I guess, the amount of resources that the company has at any given moment needs to be maximized.
Yeah.
And how to maximize this resources that you have, just look one step ahead, and improve all the time. And this model is supposed to help to just make this process of improvement more structured and more and focus on the important aspects of the posture management processes.
So this has been fantastic. It's such a great blog and a contribution to the effort. I just want to invite any other questions. And too, do you have any questions that you want to throw at Marina? Now's the time.
This may edge into your stealth mode startup, but I would imagine that given the complexity and the multiple variables that a company would have when it comes to adopting a CSPM, I'm guessing future roadmap would include AI or ML capabilities to help it.
Well, it depends which roadmap you're looking at. If it's marketing roadmap, I'm sure all the CSPMs on their website have the AI and ML since day zero, right?
Yep. No, I came from a Blaze software neuron data rules engine background years ago. And when you start talking about security rules and applying them, I start thinking, like, if you write these rule sets and then you have intelligence to apply them and react to different threat, different surface attack, threat attack, surface attack, then it gets into the buzzword space, right? MLAI. Am I wrong? Am I off base?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
There is AI and ML that can help to identify misconfigurations and to fix misconfigurations. I think what I'm struggling with is that context that is not programmatic is the key in the success of any CSPM implementation. And that part was not solved yet. And I wonder how it will be solved.
Yeah. The last question I have is, tell me if I'm wrong. It's new to me and I'm trying to wrap my arms around it and grok it. CSPM is more from a server-centric viewpoint, where something like Secure Service Edge is more from a client side, and somewhere you guys will meet in the middle.
That's exactly the case, right? So the CASBs of the world look at the edge and how clients are getting in.
Yep.
And the CSPM is looking at the inside of your environment and making sure that no one is getting in from the back doors.
Cool.
Yeah, and at some place they definitely are meeting.
I'm looking forward very much to your company announcement.
Thank you.
That's perfect. Okay, I'm just going to invite everyone to go to onug.net and read this blog. All you have to do is be registered on the website. That's it. Doesn't cost you a dime, and you'll be able to read all of the great cloud native security blogs that are in the series, including this one, Discover Your Cloud Security Posture Maturity Level by Marina Segal, edited and supported by the whole team. And what else can I tell you? ONUG community is just such a fantastic community to be part of. I've mentioned a couple of times, Michael and I are heavily involved in the ONUG open source initiative, the Cloud Security Notification Framework. If you want to get involved with that, all you got to do is reach out to us at onug.net. Also, don't forget, April 27th and 28th, ONUG Spring 2022. It's going to be a fantastic event. Go register at onug.net. Thanks to Marina. Thanks to N2. Thanks to Michael. On behalf of ONUG community, thanks for joining us today, and we will see you on the next ONUG podcast. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.